All right. So I don't really have an agenda, but I do want to be available. And it's really interesting talking to you, to people. People are just fascinating. And the way people think is really fascinating, which I think is why, if any of you want to be an instructional designer, you'll never stop analyzing people because people are always different. Um, what people think. Like, I think I was talking to someone and they were joining these fireside chats because they didn't want to waste my individual time. And I was like, oh, no, no, no. That's why I have those times, because people who can't make it to the fireside chat. So, you don't have to say everything in public either. So, do know that whatever you need within reason. And if I have I will carve out as much time as I can to assist. Um, but here we are. So, does anyone have any questions
Yeah,
about?
Brenda, I have a quick question.
Go ahead, Brian.
With regards to the high flex assignment,
Yes,
are
yes.
we viewing that from sort of like a pedagogical standpoint of if we were working and collaborating with this chemistry teacher, how might we support them in terms of like talking through pedagogy and how could you translate to what you did in person online? Or is that strictly like I'm meeting with this person, I'm going to ask them questions about what is the level of their students, what's their students' background information and background skills, and how can we use that to build into something that what your course could be?
That's a really good question. So, let me give you a little bit of background about that then. Let me start. Okay, intent. My goal for this assignment is primarily to give you all some time to reflect on what you would do in the real world. Reason being is I think especially in education. How many of you here have earned um, a bachelor's or already a master's in education already? Okay, so you guys know, like, I'm like a hardcore nerd. So when I came back to get my master's degree in education, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm spending all my time talking about my feelings or writing about my feelings or like how I would think this hypothetically would happen. And I thought it was like so not valuable. And I was like, whatever, I'm just gonna get a degree. But that time I feel like when I started to teach and you're kind of like in emergency mode because you have like all these people in front of you, that piddly assignment or whatever like just mentally prepared me for what was going to get thrown my way. So that's kind of the approach that I'm having for this one, where it would be really just an assignment for you to reflect on. If you were, okay, I got my certificate or my degree and I got this job and now I'm in this situation, what would I do? So from that level, Brian, and then also to as much as possible, and I don't how about this, like, this is also meant to be like a real world case evaluation. So you only know what you know based on what you know. Whereas I'm going to now provide you a little bit more context. So, um, in general, most of the faculty here at the University of Florida were not trained to be teachers, period. They were brought in to be researchers. Um, Brian, you work with scientists like day in and day out, I feel like teaching, I want to say it's gotten better, which is also I think reflective on why we've also improved in our ratings or rankings at the university. Where I remember when I was an undergrad, it was like I came here for research, I don't really care about teaching, I have my grad students doing that, and that's about it. But now I feel like there is more of a, no, we do care and we're going to hire people who care. um but in general, people will not necessarily know like what the word pedagogy like fully means. So even vocabulary wise, I would kind of be a little bit careful with that. Um, Also, like there's certain trigger words like Bloom's taxonomy and like pedagogy or goji or assessment, evaluation. So on the one hand, you're not gonna like tiptoe around things, but I would say that if you go into that world, you should kind of like see what your audience is like and make sure that you're kind of using that language um you know with that verbiage there. But okay, then to dive deeper into that question that you asked, Brian, right now, I probably would say you're looking at a number of factors. You could approach it from a strong pedagogical standpoint, but knowing that your factors are, you have an instructor who already has been teaching this for multiple semesters. So there's going to be some assumptions with this assignment. Probably some of the, well, I've been doing this for 2 semesters now, so I know what I'm doing. So you're going to have to deal with that level. And then also like, okay, well, they've been doing this face to face, so you're really going to be helping them online too. And then also thinking about your time constraints too. Like in this scenario, I only have you working with the chemistry professor, but in our scenario, we were working like everyone had about 9. Some people had 12 people that they were trying to get through. So you're also thinking about time too. Like, yeah, if I had all the time in the world, I can make a pretty solid class with maybe anybody who's willing, but also, so you're kind of like looking at it from that lens with the amount of time you have left. So knowing that things shut down in March, that then people were told, granted, so good question. I'm going to say that based on my scenario here, pretend that people were notified in March that they have to have their course ready for HyFlex by fall. So that will give you about 8 months to prep them, which some did. Some did have, some departments in the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences actually just put their foot down and were like, everybody, don't panic. We're going online and you should be ready for summer and fall, even though the university and the state, frankly, hadn't even made that call yet. So you're going to look at it from a pedagogical standpoint. Also, like how much can you bring the instructor along? Again, it's going to be hypothetical, but I'm going to kind of rely on you guys to set up your parameters. Like, for example, similar, and I don't want this to be a pain point because I do want you guys to love needs assessments. But like learner analysis wise, when you write that up, also tell me a little bit about like this instructor that you're working with. You're working with the hypotheticals that, okay, they're kind of resistant. We have 8 months to work. You can even throw in that they're semi-willing to learn, and that you're going to be advising them from this standpoint. Now, this is also kind of a real world situation because I would dare say most of you don't necessarily have a strong chemistry background. So you're also going to be working from that lens too, which is also something that's been a big question in instructional design. Like, how do I effectively help people with purely my understanding of how people learn and my understanding of technology without necessarily knowing the content? So that's why that curiosity factor, if you watch just Jolene's video, is kind of the thing that can make or break us. Because you could talk to anybody after a while in this job, you kind of know a lot. So you're just like, oh yeah, I totally know about this about bail bonds. Or like, I didn't even know, like, we had to develop this course for spotters. And I didn't even know what a spotter was until we worked on this course where they basically, this was for course for people who have maybe not even graduated from high school, but who want a job in like disposal management. And so their job is to go to the landfills and just like monitor these big old trucks just dumping trash into the landfill, and they have to spot out things that could be hazardous. So they're trained to do that. So then it's kind of like you just kind of learn about different things. I mean, we're never like I don't know all the details, but at least I can kind of give an overall of what people would need to know for that kind of job. So point being, long answer, Brian, I hope that helps. So you do the best you can with those parameters. And that's how I'm going to evaluate that assignment. And then the hope of it, because it's also a discussion, it hopefully will lessen some stress off of you guys so that you don't necessarily have to come up with the all-inclusive answer for the situation. Like maybe you might just focus on the science part of it, how to work with the science faculty. And then let's say Candace, you were in the same group too, and you could be like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. But then maybe like lesson wise, we can do this to kind of do objectives. And then Yvonne, you can then be like, okay, well then I'm really good at this technology. I just learned this PowerPoint bright carbon thing, whatever. And that I can make a very effective presentations to like maybe that's something that we would then need to join forces on in helping this faculty get through. So it's meant to give you guys a start for the discussion, but not the pressure of having to deal with everything, which is why it's a discussion too.
So it's sort of intentionally vague, and that we could take anything we've learned from this course so far and sort of apply it in this context.
Right, exactly. And it's also meant to be investigative too, because you might then be that critical thinking of like trying to figure out what good questions could be. Because honestly, most of the projects we get, we probably only know, how about this? When I get a course, I'm told what the course name is, what the course number prefix is, who's the instructor, what semester they want to develop, when is it going to run, for how many students, and if it's like a totally new course or not. And that's pretty much all I have to get started with. The process then, like from the first meeting and probably for the first week, is just like, I think we're all old. No, maybe some of you aren't old enough. But do you guys remember that game, Guess Who? So that's the game that we then play for a couple of weeks when we first work with faculty. Like, will you be the one teaching this course? No? Okay. Are you going to have a new textbook next year? No? Okay. Then we probably don't want to like commit to certain ideas. So that's also why it's vague, Brian.
Just out of curiosity,
Yeah.
how does that work? Is there like a form that professors fill out saying I'm interested in working with an instructional designer, and that just gets sent to you like a Google form, or do they email you directly? I'm just curious about how your position works.
Yeah, sure. So I would say that we are blessed in the sense that people have to, in a sense, apply to work with us. So there is an intake form on our course website. And okay, so I am not, I'm just going to say this as a disclaimer, I'm not in any way, shape, or form promoting our department. Not that we get any money for me doing this. But I will go ahead and share our website link to you all. That way you can kind of see what, I mean, you probably have seen some of these as you've been kind of perusing the internet. But in the chat link, you'll see a link to this, our center. And then in the orange bar, second option to the left, you'll see an intake form. So anyone, whether you're UF Online, even though we primarily cater to UF Online, can submit an intake form, and our director will vet it to see, do we have the bandwidth to take it on? What kind of request is being made? Is it possible to get it done in a semester? Now, the reason why I say we're blessed in that respect is more often than not, I would dare say at least 75% of instructional design shops in higher education are more like, with all due respect, more like walk-in clinic, where your doors are open, faculty come in, first come, first serve, hard to say no kind of situations where I need this next week. I need this potentially today. And so you just kind of have to be ready on your toes. Yeah. Mhm. Any other questions? I hope that helped for the discussion. I can segue to something that is on my heart to convey to people, but I don't want to usurp you guys' time. Is there anything? Okay. Well, okay, so I met with a student today, and bless her heart, she like burst into tears. And I was just like, okay, girl, what's wrong? What can we do? And no, and we had an honest conversation. She's like, I'm really kind of overwhelmed with this course. She's like, I took 2 courses already in this program and I didn't feel this overwhelmed. And she's like, I know the assignments are reasonable. I know, you're providing help, but I just can't shake this kind of overwhelming feeling that I'm like a little bit drowning. So the fact that I have you as a captive audience and you're here, um, it's not meant to be like that. The reason why it may feel a little bit more overwhelming, like I've been trying to convey as much as possible, is that I'm going for breadth, to try to have you guys exposed to as many things as possible within instructional design, primarily because um, I totally respect my colleagues in the department. They're wonderful, they're great, they focus on research, but I don't want you all to graduate without hearing and seeing some of the things that you're being exposed to now. So if you are executing critical thinking, kind of doing your best, and you've seen my feedback, and you guys always have the opportunity to resubmit, that is my primary goal, to expose you guys to things, have you guys think about it, write about it, work with it, at least, because otherwise, I mean, I could just have you do a bunch of readings, but I feel like if you're if you're like me as a grad student, I'd be like, no assignment, bye, I got other things to do. So just something to encourage people to just play around with it. um and also to be honest with you all. I don't want you all to leave from this class, because also I'm like, how did no one tell you about this about APA? I mean, if you've gone through 3 classes already, this should have been conveyed to you. So point being that that way you also would be stronger in that respect too. So it's not like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you didn't know not to put a colon after references on the references page. But that if I can tell you, like I got called out for it too. Like I think I did like Smith, and I wrote out the word and Smith like 2002 when I was an undergrad, and my professor like called me out and was like, no, it's an ampersand. And from that point on, I was like, okay, got it, abundantly clear. So that's what I'm hoping that your experience will be like. It's not like, oh no, she thinks I'm horrible because I didn't space double space, or I didn't bold my header one. That's not the case, but to hopefully have you be a bit stronger by the time you leave this class. um so I think that might also be contributing to the stress, and the fact that like certain feedback I do give is quite detailed. So it's kind of like, oh my gosh, like now I have to kind of like really watch out for everything. And okay, how about this? You kind of do, but not, again, this is a safe place to feel free. Like, I'm not going to remember all the commas, I'm not going to remember to like make sure that all my size fonts are like 10 when it's like 12. So we do have people in our department to kind of check us on that. Similar to if you were in journalism, you would have a copy editor. But as much as possible to know that if you're going into an instructional design situation, those are things that potentially people will be looking at and asking you about. And again, that you wouldn't necessarily leave without that kind of feedback to, hopefully help out for the future. Um, so, um, with that said, I also will, especially, I mean, I'll go back in module 4 and module 5, and also there's a principle with videos that people like to add time next to a video so that okay, before I even watch this video, I'm going to commit to X amount of time. I think it's a little redundant now because videos are so easy to watch than they were before. Again, if you were in online education, when I started online education, videos were bad. Like, there was no way for people to really fast forward and go back. You didn't really know how long they were. The quality was horrible. Like, people didn't do anything engaging. They were just kind of lecturing at you in the dark because they wouldn't record on good equipment. I mean, the whole experience was just bad. And so people, to try to fight for online education, try to advocate for certain things. So they were like, okay, well, if you at least put the time of the video, then people can know, okay, I'm going to watch a 58-minute video and I'm committed to it. And I know I have to carve out this time because I can't even fast forward or rewind. So, but now with the new technologies and everything, and that's also why when you see certain rules too about people being like, okay, well, you can't have an online video that's more than 10 to 15 minutes, that's also where it stems from, because people back then couldn't rewind, couldn't really stop. And so, of course, it was better to tell people to create shorter videos so then the whole experience would just be over more quickly. But now, the fact that we can chapter, the things you have with play pause it, the fact that when you like just hover over the YouTube video, you know it's like 23 minutes. So certain things that were kind of needed in the past are not necessarily super needed. I would also like to do that with the assignments too, because if I give you like my expectations of how long you should spend with an assignment, then I think maybe that would also help you all gauge how much I consider that assignment to be. And so, like, for example, if you're like looking at the, okay, the comparison of the learning design models this week, and you're like, oh crap, this is like another needs assessment that's going to take 10 hours, then I can already automatically tell you that my expectation is that it really would take no more than 2 hours. Reason being, not because I'm like, oh, I'm so great, I can crank this out in 2 hours, but more so that you know that I want you to go over those the new interactive kind of like learning experiences and learning about the design models and Gagne's 9 events of instruction, and then just reflect on the design models, what you learned about them, what you liked, what you didn't like, and then add the references. So actually that writing will be easier probably than the instructional versus the learning theories paper, because that one required more comparison, more of you digging into it. And the reason why that was a more challenging assignment was because most of you had already been in foundations where you have heard about those learning theories, your masters were in it, you had the readings, so it warranted a more advanced assignment versus design models that you haven't necessarily heard about yet. So I'll go ahead and indicate the times with the assignments as well. And then also to tell you all to, there's a lot of other things to cry about in the world today, so please don't let this course be one of them. The intent is really to to have fun. I mean, okay. I'll be honest. I know it's not like this is what some of you would consider like a fun, but I mean, I hope it would be something that would like spark some ideas, be more creative, be like, oh wow, I just thought online education. I already thought it was fancy enough with the discussion forum. Oh look, I can actually like annotate on videos, or hey, look at this interactive experience in Rise, or look, my video doesn't have to look like that. So hopefully those things would give you some more ideas and stuff like that and encourage you rather than discourage you. So that's okay, that's my soapbox moment. Um Anything else?
I have a question about Rise. Is Rise a program that the university bought into, or is it something that anybody else can use?
Good question. So Rise is made by this company called Articulate, and many of these companies have these products that people then, you know, back in the day, man, I used to not think I was so old, but now I really do feel really old. Like, remember how you would like get AOL or like any of the softwares and you would have to go buy it and it was on a CD and then you would have to install it. And then once you had it, you had it. It was great. But now companies are like, well, how about we offer it for cheaper, have people subscribe, and then they get all these products, kind of like Netflix. Like you can get all these movies and TV shows now, and we'll just charge you like an annual subscription or monthly subscription. So Articulate has these products so that you can subscribe to them and then be able to access it. And Rise is different because rather than having it installed onto your computer like its other products, it's web-based. So you can actually go anywhere, and as long as you have a license, you can log in and work in Rise. And then everything then is stored on the Articulate server, so you don't even need to have things moved onto your own personal web server. So I love it, but I'm not gonna lie, Articulate products like Adobe are, a pretty penny. So the university at this time has not purchased it, but our department has it. And actually, you guys' experience as you're going through it right now, that was someone who is in instructional design put it out there based on that her, I think it was her, it seems like her. Anyways, the university's account for Carlow University. So they made it a free and available to people. So yeah.
So I'm assuming all the videos are just embedded then.
Yes. So because it's web-based, you could totally like grab YouTube videos and embed it in there. You can actually, I think, upload your own, but the usually that's not a problem. But I would say whenever you upload your own video versus putting it on a place that was designed to hold videos, you might introduce bloat into your system. Like, for example, Canvas courses. If you're teaching a Canvas course, like I could upload all the videos I do for you guys into Canvas, but it would make the Canvas course like pretty big, and potentially impact you guys' streaming of the video. So if I go through YouTube, that, hey, their one job is to host videos. They just make the streaming experience so much easier. So, and I'm glad you touched upon that, Candace, because I would say, if you were like, Brenda, what's the difference between a teacher and instructional designer? Again, another reason that instructional design can be housed in educational technology is that you really kind of do need to wear that educational technology hat, that technical technology hat. So especially, since we're 21st century, it's hard now. How many of you have taken foundations? Yeah, okay. So some of you who have taken foundations, like the definition of technology isn't necessarily like a computer or a phone. I mean, it was just the thing that was crafted to make people's experience easier. So, your technology at one point was the whiteboard and a marker, instead of chalk. And so to say those things aren't necessarily educational technology, I would say is incorrect. But because, we want to move people to being more is it 21st century or 22nd century now learners? No, 21st. We're still in, yeah, 21st century learners. That, oftentimes the technology comes into play, which is why some of the courses you're taking are exposing you guys to HTML. If you take Dyn 2, you would be like CSS, JavaScript, PHP, and stuff like that. And I'm not trying to be like, oh my gosh, Brenda is amazing. But the reason why I'm also trying to like be as much as I can as an instructor to you all is because I help to oversee the multimedia side of our department. And so as much technology I can impart to you guys too, hopefully that would help. Like, for example, this past week, my team and I were working on network drive issues. Like, we're running out of storage. Like, all the stuff we do and create need to be stored somewhere in case any oh no. Did I lose you guys? Okay, no, I'm still here.
No.
Okay, cool. Like, we're running out of storage space for storing things because we have PowerPoints that are huge, videos that need to be saved. And so we had to figure out storage space and negotiate for larger, like more terabytes, find another drive where we can like house things that haven't been used for 3 years. So we created or worked with network services at UF to get another drive. so that we can move all the things we produced in 2017 and 2018 and move it into there. So, so yeah, those are all the fun things related to education online. Candace, I hope that answered your question. I will always probably give you guys more information than you need. So hopefully that'll help. Anything? What else?
I have a question. For the PowerPoint I was supposed to create, I know you said suggested we should use Creative Commons, but if I want to do for my needs analysis and later on my ID project, I want to do on the learning management system that I would like to my colleague and my students later on use, will I be able to use that as the pictures to show like instruction wise, or am I have to stick with the Creative?
Nope. You guys are so busy, too busy to just do non-necessarily hopefully everything that you do will help you out outside of this class, or at least practice in some way. So if there is anything that you can use that can contribute to that, do feel free to. I just need to give some parameters if people are like, oh, I don't even know where to start. So yeah, good question. Okay, I think someone asked a question in the Chris, to your question about playing Guess Who for an assignment, actually, as a preview for week 5, when we're going over some more details about learning objectives, I feel like some people are going to really hate me, but I really want you all to play Disney Blitz on your phone. It's kind of like Candy Crush, but it is probably the most accurate way I can tell people why learning objectives are so important. So that will be an assignment. And it's free.
As a non-Candy Crusher, do I actually have to be good in the game?
No, this is a purely explorative game that you can be like, I'll be honest, I don't want to like ruin the whole learning experience, but there was something, and I'd like to credit that they didn't do it right on their user interface. And I didn't do it right, and it cost me probably hours of my life. Because I was like, this is such a stupid game if this is all I'm doing. And then I was like, oh man, I'm not reading that right. So anyways, test it out, see if you like it. Again, not really meaning to waste your time, but again, I think there's really value to show you why good learning objectives are so important with that game. Okay, so Megan, can you talk a little bit about the research article on instructional designer? Sure thing. Do you want more of a reflection or more of a formal essay? Thanks. I would like, Brenda, you asked too much. I would like both. Reason being is that, so, you know, why not? You guys are here, you're asking good questions. Let me go ahead and just show you as many tidbits as possible. So I'm going to share my screen with you all. So if you all are not familiar with Google Scholar, I know I talked about it last time, or not last time, but one of the Fireside Chats. You should go ahead and Google things that you're interested in, probably the words instructional design or instructional designer. Because someone shared an article with me this morning and they were like, hey, is it okay if I read this article? I'm like, it's not a bad article, but kind of going back to that discussion about instructional theory and learning theory, it was an article more based in learning theory. Like they were kind of going over like the cognitive load of like music education. And I was like, okay, I can see how you would want to read this because it relates to how people think and how you want to help them learn. But I really want to know like you to see the instructional design process. So what we then did was typed in instructional design and music education. And then to kind of help her, I chose up like 2017 and I was like, instead of that article you shared with me, how about this one? Like the connection between music and science education and the practice of innovative instructional design. Or another one we looked at was a conceptual model for teaching music online. And actually, this would have been really cool too, like mobile learning and music education as well. So that way you're kind of choosing articles that, you know, you're looking at, and so on the one hand, you're reflecting on it, like, oh, wow, I didn't know about that. I learned this about this research too, but not necessarily so informal that you're not, having a hypothesis or a thesis and using supporting evidence in your writing. Does that help to clarify, Megan?
Yes, I was struggling between trying to figure out if basically if I was supposed to be in there or not. What I was,
Oh,
my
yeah. Yep. Understood. Yes, first person is totally welcomed in this course. I do want as much reflection and critical thinking and application from you guys as possible.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, no, thanks. So Yvonne, let's see. Okay, before I go to Yvonne, Jasenia, Candace, since you asked about the journal article, yeah, totally. Get your article from Google Scholar. And if the university, if you go to the library website.
Okay, so that's what I'm having problems with. I'm pretty sure it's PEBCAC, so problem exists between keyboard and chair, but I have had a horrible time getting onto UF libraries.
Oh.
Even with the Cisco VPN.
Really?
Yeah.
That's no bueno. Okay.
Yes,
So
so that's why I was.
let me disconnect from VPN. Uh-oh. And so let's try this. So I disconnected from VPN. And the cool thing about Google Scholar is that some of the ones, because people are, here's another sexy topic in ed tech, people are actually making articles more open source. So you might be able to find some that don't require you to VPN in. So definitely, just because if there's trouble getting the article, I wouldn't throw Google Scholar out the window. I would still try. So let's see, let me refresh here. So yeah, even without VPN, there's still an ability for me to download the printed version for this particular article here. But if you do have any issues, just let me know, and I'd be happy to download it for you.
Yeah, I was going to try and contact the UF library tomorrow to see if they can help me, or somebody from tech can help me, because I'm sure it's just some small issue.
Okay.
So,
yeah, just let me, keep me posted. And again, this goes for all of you. If you do have like technical issues, again, this being a learning experience, just let me know, and we can at least, I do want to try to make it a learning experience, but as professional as possible. So if you let me know, hey, I need more time, that's what you would do in a professional world, but then it's when people are like ghosting you, where it's like, I didn't talk to you about an assignment, I'm just kind of turning it in. That's kind of the part where I'm like, okay, maybe you should have told me. And that's just a good lesson for anything in general. So as long as you guys talk to me, yeah, we can figure out something if the tech doesn't work. Because I think, Candace, that'll help you out in the long run, because I'm sure this course won't be the only one that you're going to need that for. Okay, so let's go. Yvonne, can you go over a little bit more about expectations for the PowerPoint? Absolutely. So let me go to the PowerPoint assignment. Let me go back to the home page. Oh, wait, actually, I could go back to, could have gone back to just the overview page, but oh, okay. PowerPoint assignment. So, want you guys to explore Bright Carbon. Not necessarily expecting you all to have done that already, but have any of you been able to explore it yet?
Yes.
And how do you like it? Do you not like it? What do you think?
I enjoyed it.
I like it, but I want to know how to do their interactive version where they can just drag things and submit and they can say like, oh, this is the correct answer. I would like to see that. Because they showed a really nice video on saying you can do this, but I didn't find the
You're like,
appropriate
how do you-
buttons in the bright side. I'm like, where is it? I would love to use let my student do it as assessment to see like, did you know you can look for this place in this like page? But I couldn't find it in the actual bright. I was going to research where can I find it. So if there were any pointer, that'd be great.
Yeah, I
Okay,
felt very similar. I was very impressed at what they offered, but I didn't know if they hit a lot of their tutorials because they want you to purchase their services or what it is. Because
yeah.
I looked on YouTube, I looked for tutorials or templates, and again, I was impressed, but I don't know how to do it myself.
Right, right. Okay, so that's cool. So send me if you haven't yet, but I'm going to try to remember. So you basically want student interaction, almost like kind of like a Jeopardy situation to be in the PowerPoint.
It's a last video that on the special Wednesday interactive.
That one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I know that there are websites that can do it, but I would love to have it embedded in the PowerPoint. I also have a quick question. If I create that in PowerPoint and I transfer that file into Google Slides, are all of the bright carbon gonna be there too, or not really?
That is a really good question, and I would have to test that out. I would say if Bright Carbon is piggybacking off the PowerPoint features, then it should retain. But if they are like designed, like for example, Canvas, we have design tools right now integrated. So for example, you see these columns, these tabs, and I built them into blocks. But if I transfer this into a Canvas course without design tools, you would see a totally stripped down version. So I would say they're knowing that that's kind of their bread and butter, there would be probably some elements that won't be the same in Google Drive. But okay, got it. So you're talking about that last video. So then Erica, Brian, and I'm sure all you guys would mind seeing it too. I'll do what I can to get some more information about that, and then see what I can do to share that with you. But good. I mean, so that's probably, Brian, when you were asking a little bit more about our department, you're going to go some places and some people won't really, people are like, oh, wow, the fact that like things align and the colors are relatively matching, that's good enough. In our department, it's definitely the expectations are quite high about the visual design of things. So I also, again, this is not advanced ID, but again, trying to expose you all to as much as possible to start getting into that mindset of like, oh, how I align elements in my slide, how can I do that? And frankly, I wasn't like the same thing as instructors not being taught to be teachers. You guys weren't necessarily trained to be graphic designers. So as much as possible, like tools out there that can help okay, this is left aligned. Okay, this is justified or this is centered. I hope that would help. Yvonne, so basically for the PowerPoint is basically, I want to like exactly what it's called. I do want to see how you all can elevate PowerPoint. Now, if you, let's say, PowerPoint actually has upped its game. If you have the newer PowerPoint, it has, oh my gosh, what is it called? Designer. Basically, if you throw in content onto the slides, it'll actually give you through their like AI, like ideas of how to format that text. So if you use that for this assignment, maybe in conjunction with the Bright Carbon or the Bright slide, that would probably be like one way I can see that, hey, you can produce a high quality looking PowerPoint. Because let's be honest, and we probably are guilty, all of us at one time or the other, where you're like, sometimes PowerPoint slides almost feel like back in the day when you had those sticker books where you find different clip art and you just kind of paste it onto a slide and you have all these things kind of put together and you're just like, oh, wow, I just kind of like put it together versus like thinking more about the visual design of it. So hopefully kind of exposing you all to some more of like the visual aspect of design, because then this will ultimately contribute to your final project. So expectation wise, just again, want you guys to play around with it, whether like Erica was pointing out, it be something that, you know, you use for your final project, or again, if you just want to take a mental break and, you know, design something for your mom's birthday, that's fine too, because actually that's what we did at our department when the pandemic happened. We couldn't pass around birthday cards anymore. So right now on Google Slides, like it's kind of ridiculous how we try to like out design each other on the birthday slides. So yeah, so you never know when those talents are needed. And then I'm again just trying to keep it minimal, even if you just do 3 slides. I feel like one slide is like kind of a joke, not a joke to you guys, but I just feel like you guys would be like, why am I even, like, you can't even really tell a story. I mean, you could, but to really kind of really get the practice in, I would say would really be about 3, and then to share it with your discussion group, like, what was your experience with, so Erica and Brian, 2 of the things you could have said would be like, yeah, I appreciated it, I wanted to know more, they had me sold, but I really need to know, or excuse me, I want to know more about that last video and those features that they were talking about. And then I mean, I'm going to do my part too, but I don't know, maybe then Sunday would have been like, oh, okay, well, actually I found it, here it is. So that way you can hear from each other as well. So 3 to 5, share it, post about your experience. And also I think we're here to help make each other better. So I mean, you're not artists. I'm not necessarily going to be like totally go full critique on things. But if you see something and you're like, hey, you know, that was a great idea, but I'm really having a little hard time like seeing the text. And, you know, maybe you just want to change the text to white instead of like that blue that's so close to the other blue, you know, so that could be maybe how the discussion goes too in the forum.
Are all of the features of Bright Carbon available to everyone, or is there like a paid version?
There is a paid version where they offer, I think, more tutorials, I think a more developed Bright Slide.
Mhm.
But I was think, okay, well, if Bright Slide is something that, you know, it's better than nothing, that you all could at least dabble in. But yeah, that's their thing. Pay us and we'll give you all the
Right.
tools now.
I was just wondering if some of the more advanced features that were in the videos might be paid.
Yeah. And cool, Brian shared our institute uses kudoboard.com for birthdays and it's amazing. Yeah, cool. I'll have to look into that. I haven't heard about it. So we're always looking for good ways to do things. Thanks, Brian. Speaking of sharing ideas, just sent, hold on, before we move on, Yvonne, did I answer your question? Does that help make things a little bit clearer?
Yes, that does. I guess my biggest challenge with the thing was what to do, like my choosing what to do it on.
Oh yeah,
But yeah, I'm
so
working on it.
can you help, and then this will be maybe a nice little activity to illustrate in front of everyone. What was your topic again, if you can remind me?
For the needs assessment?
For the needs assessment and for that problem challenge discussion?
Mine was helping parents navigate like a learning management system.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So then, so if you're like looking for content, then if that ultimately is your final ID project that you kind of want to commit to, where I'm not going to ask you to do a full blown like course, but at least, you know, one unit of learning where maybe you might just go over like the initial layout of the learning management system. You can use this experience to start that information sharing for your project.
Okay.
So, and that could, you know, you don't, for this purpose, I mean, for the final project, you may eventually want to do more than 3 to 5 slides, but for this, at least it can get you started, and I can get you
Okay.
feedback, or your peers can get you feedback as well.
Okay.
Yep. I do want to show you guys something because we found out about this last year. I love it, but I can't really get people in my department to really like it, and it makes me sad. But anyways, before we go on to that, I do want to make sure I address all the questions. Jasenia. Is it Jasenia? Am I pronouncing it correctly? Okay. Yes, next week, I think, to help people out, because it'll be more of a hands-on week with learning objectives. I'm sorry, you guys. I don't know if I love this format. Like, I've been trying to mix it up almost every week so that I can hopefully try to get more people by either, you know, having Wednesday or Thursday fireside chats or individual meetings. But I don't really know if that, because I think people like more like structure. So I would appreciate you guys' feedback on that. But right now, I would say next week, instead of a fireside chat, I'll use this time to do individual meetings. So yeah, I'll send out that sheet. And even if it's not, like, for example, this week, even if it's not a fireside chat week, just let me know, and we can figure out a time too. Okay. Okay, so let me see. I'll go here. So beautiful AI is the thing that I really like, and I don't really know, again, why people don't like it as much. I mean, okay, I'll show you why people don't really like it as much. Let me see, can I log in? Okay. So you never know how you stumble upon things. So how we found out about beautiful AI was that we had an instructor who was with the computer science department, and he is designing virtual reality environments to supplement for discussions and classroom interaction. Because when the pandemic happened, people were just going to Zoom, having discussion forums, but it didn't necessarily feel like there was that contact and kind of initiative to make contact with people there. So by having a virtual environment, I don't know how many of you do you guys know what's like Second Life is, or any of the role-playing games are in the world? So basically you can have your own avatar, and you can kind of like be how you want to be expressed, and then you can go into this world, and then, you know, you can interact with like educational learning materials and have discussions in that environment without necessarily feeling like, oh, this is so 2D. So kind of more of that 3D experience. So he was making a presentation to us, and his presentation had like beautiful AI. And first of all, I'll be honest, I looked at his presentations, I wasn't necessarily super impressed. But then one of my colleagues was like, hey, did you check out that beautiful AI application that he was using to create these slides? And I was like, no. And he was like, I really think you should check it out because it's pretty interesting with the artificial intelligence. So I was like, okay. So right now, super side note, artificial intelligence is like a term that people are really just kind of like throwing out there, that technology with some type of algorithm that can help you like determine something. So I don't think there's definitely a strict definition of artificial intelligence yet. So I would say that. So because when you think of artificial intelligence, some of you might think of like Terminator, whereas other people are like, this thing in front of you, beautiful AI, is also an example of artificial intelligence. So this is free. So Candace, this is one of those things where it's like for anyone who's interested, you can sign up with your Google, and I think what you go in and you do minimal themes. Okay, like you choose one. Does anyone have a preference of one? All right. I'm just gonna go with magazine. All right. So then here, sorry, I'm gonna move you guys up. You can have, so PowerPoint is like, here, these are your slides. You go ahead and create something, but we're going to support you along the way. Here, their perspective is like, you're never going to be good enough, so let us help you. So you're going to type in your text. So like introduction to learning management systems. Okay. And then you have the ability to add an image, and they have this already like with the royalty free ones. So it's already connected to Unsplash. And there you go. They just added it for you. Great. So easy. And then you can even choose the layouts. Right now it's full background. Do you want it left? Do you want it right? So instead of you designing per se, it's like choices now. So if you're indecisive, this is probably not the one for you. But if you are, you can then go ahead and be like, all right, let's do this. Okay, cool. Let's do that little mystery, like a little mystery with the zebra. You know, you can add decorations, whether or not you want like a footer, a header, if you want to add a logo. So then you want to add pages. You can even duplicate this page if you kind of just wanted to do a bunch of like covers. But when I add a slide, now I get to have all these different layouts. I can choose whether or not I want a design that's most popular, if I'm going to be talking about a structure with an agenda, if I want any basics, if I'm going over some data, even if I want to do like a word cloud. And so, or if I want to add any diagrams, comparisons, people, products. So let's say, you know, I'm doing an introduction slide. I'm going to use long bio. So now I'm going to start with a blank template, or, you know, this guy. So here I go, and I added this. So now all I have to do in order to make sure it kind of looks good is just follow the directions. So, hey there, let's work together. You should use a learning management system. So notice that all you have to do is like really like type, and then when you're done, you can either duplicate it or you just add like another thing. Well, let me get you a timeline then. And I'm gonna go ahead and choose this one. Sure. So now all you have to do is then just like type stuff. And so you just go ahead and keep creating. And let's say, you know what, you don't want teal anymore. You want another color. So you can go to the theme, you know, you can choose like, let's see. I can go to my color palette and I can be like, you know, I just want everything to be blue, pretty much. And then that way, you basically have changed your colors. You know, you can go to your typography, look at the decorations, etc. So, and then you can go ahead and build your slides in this way. So, people will hate this because they're like, it's pretty arbitrary. Like, what if I, instead of like doing this on the left, right, and I wanted to do it like, you know, have it right justified or something, that those kind of abilities are more challenging, because the idea is that, again, that whole theory that like you can't make a good decision. So they're going to put these like bumpers and guardrails up for you from making bad design decisions. Whereas like, for example, like our graphic designers who kind of like, well, I'm breaking this rule because, or this or that. prefer to work with PowerPoint. Actually, frankly, they don't want to work with PowerPoint either. They want to work with like a Illustrator, pretty much Illustrator, sometimes with the photos with Photoshop. So yeah. So anyways, if you guys are interested in beautiful AI in your lives, and I think it's super great because I'm like, if you're not a great designer and you can just make good decisions, then this is like, you're done. You can make great presentations for faculty. And then let's see, save theme to library. Okay. And then apply changes to presentation. And the cool thing about this, once you're done here, you can export it to PowerPoint. So you can either present it off Beautiful AI. So there's a presentation feature and you can use their animations here, or you can go to download it to PowerPoint and then tweak in PowerPoint. All right. So that's Brenda's free tutorial for Fireside Chat. Is there anything else? It's 7:02, so I don't necessarily want to hold you all any longer. And thank you for sticking it out. And I hope that's been helpful. I hope these are helpful. Okay. Well, if nothing else, feel free to email me, set up an individual meeting. I'll see you, Jasenia. And good luck with module 4. Don't stress out over it. I'll put in the times. I would say if it helps you all out, and I'm being kind of conservative with my estimates, the textbook reading, an hour, the high flex, your initial writing, maybe an hour max. Responding to people, like maybe 30 minutes, exploring the learning designs, maybe like an hour. Your paper will probably take the longest, reflecting on the learning and then making sure you have the APA format. So I would at least maybe expect a couple hours. Your PowerPoint, Bright Carbon experience, I would probably aim for like an hour and a half. And I say that in a loving way for you guys because graphic design stuff is like the biggest time sucker. So even though you're designing 3 sides, it could be like 10 hours. So I'm just going to try to protect you from yourselves and go ahead and say, like, after an hour, you should check yourself and be like, okay, I think it's okay. I'm not going to try to like do anything more with this. And then, you know, like maybe like 30 minutes, just kind of checking other people's work and replying. That's all. So that's my expectation. I know it adds up, but again, hopefully it's not like, I think you definitely have crossed a huge hump with the needs assessment. And I think you have a lot of good content from that experience that'll push you through for the rest of the semester. So I hope that helps.
When do you think you'll have all the needs assessments graded? By Sunday, or do you think
That's my plan? That is my plan, that I will know I won't be a week. I'll only be like a week behind you guys. That's my goal. Yep. So you know what I'm doing on the weekend. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a good one. I'll put this up for, you know, if you ever want to watch it again, it's recorded and it'll be on the course. All right, everyone. Take care. Be safe. And again, be good to yourself. Bye.